Cyrus Vance Jr., the Democratic district attorney for New York's Manhattan district, has been more than happy, as I'm sure you all know by now, to go on a fishing expedition against former President Donald Trump and the Trump Organization. But he isn't always this tough on public figures, and this is what he's not talking about right now. A New York grand jury, as you know, indicted the chief financial officer of the Trump Organization yesterday, as well as the organization itself, for an alleged, what people keep talking about as an alleged tax evasion scheme. They love to use the word scheme. It makes it sound so much more dirty and pre-planned and, conspiratorial. This scheme was about not paying taxes on fringe benefits like car leases and apartments, tuition, that kind of thing. The indictment came out yesterday and involves Alan Weisselberg, who was CFO of the Trump Organization, had worked for the Trump Organization for nearly 50 years, actually started working for Trump's dad before he worked for Donald Trump. And the claim is that he evaded taxes on about $1.75 million since 2005. Carrie Dunn, who's a prosecutor, had this to say in court. There's no clearer example of a company that should be held to account. It's not about politics.
Those two things seem to contradict each other.
I feel like I need to wash my hands after I
usually if you have to
like
say it's not about politics at the end, it's probably about politics.
Usually is, yeah. That's exactly right. Why bother? If I read my grocery list to you, I do not end it with it's not about politics because the fact that we're out of bananas has nothing to do with my politics. So that wasn't anything about politics. But in 2015, model Ambra Bitalana Gutierrez came to the New York Police Department alleging she'd been groped by Harvey Weinstein. The NYPD set up a sting so that she could talk to him the next day and have that conversation recorded. Weinstein made some incriminating remarks on the audio, which the New Yorker released a couple of years later in 2017. But Vance declined to prosecute him. Now, in what is, I'm sure, an unrelated incident, Vance later accepted a donation from one of Weinstein's attorneys. I'm sure that was completely had nothing to do
coincidental.
with it. That was shortly after Vance had decided to drop the charges.
Yeah.
But, I don't even know why I'm bringing that. That wasn't political.
Circumstantial.
It's a nothing burger.
Motion to throw that out.
Nothing burger.
And of course, Vance's office did prosecute Weinstein eventually, once there were 25,000 women all with the same story. Even better, or worse, actually. In the case of Jeffrey Epstein, Vance argued to the Manhattan Supreme Court on behalf of Epstein in 2011 that his sex offender status should be downgraded from level 3, which is the most dangerous, to level 1, which is the lowest. Epstein had to register for sex offender status because of a 2008 guilty plea in Florida, in which he admitted to procuring a person under the age of 18 for prostitution and felony solicitation. But lowest level.
Sounds like a level 1. That's a level 1 to me.
That person should be fine. That's somebody who I would expect someone in the prosecutor's office to defend.
Yeah.
That makes total sense.
Good people.
So what do you guys think is the real motivation here for these charges? Is the DA pursuing justice, or is this strictly an anti-Trump political move despite their claims to the contrary?
So I think it all boils down to one thing. And I think there's things intertwined to get to this one thing. But I think the main reason they're doing this is because they're terrified of Trump running again in 2024.
Yeah.
So they will do whatever they can to kick the legs out from underneath him to stop him from running in 2024.
Grant, do you think it's more fear of the future, or do you think this is more about anger at the past? Like they're still so mad at him for his first term.
I think it's really a combination of both things. I think both can be true at once. I think it's really interesting as you were reading that, those 3 cases. You got one case at least with Weinstein where he has very good evidence. Like you said, he has,
It's an audio
Weinstein
recording.
on
Yeah.
tape saying things that could be incriminating, and he says, I don't really want to pursue this. Then you have multiple legal experts here in this case who are saying, you don't have very much evidence at all. If you read these reports,
Right.
the evidence is not in the reports, and the reports don't lie. And he's like, this is something worth
Right.
prosecuting. So it's just
Right.
so backwards.
Grant totally picked up my grift there. I don't know if you noticed that, but when you ask me the either or question, I always tell you it's both. And
Yeah.
you just totally stole that grift.
Yeah.
which
You did.
is
You're
either
becoming a
really
grifter.
either really admirable intern behavior or terrible. And I'm going to have
Trying
to
to
think
get a
about
job.
which one it is.
Well,
Yeah.
what I will say is I think it's also ironic when you talk about the future. To me, I actually think it's more about the past if I had to choose. I think that they're really frustrated at Trump, at the way things went, and on the fact that, they've been trying to get him on multiple things since he was elected, and they really have never gotten him on as big of charges that they want. It's just been really select, small charges.
Yeah.
But I think that when you look at the future, what Democrats don't seem to understand is that these, all of these lawsuits they're trying to bring against Trump, they're not going to take the legs out from under him. I mean, the
Yeah,
people,
his base isn't
the
going
people
anywhere.
who are
They're
going to vote
gonna
for
make him
Trump are going to
angrier.
vote for Trump.
Yeah,
And
no, you're absolutely
you
right.
see a small thing like,
Yeah.
oh, he gave a car
Won't-
and didn't
won't
pay
matter.
taxes or whatever. Like these things are baked into the cake when it
These
comes
these
to
people
Trump.
don't like the tax code to begin with.
Right.